Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Pod Podcast, the world's greatest podcast with the coolest name. We've got lots of really great episodes in behind us now already, and this one is going to be great too. Eatable is a really interesting entry to what is a crowded category and probably a category that needs a lot of innovation. And I think these guys have accomplished that, but I'll let them tell that story. Charlene and Vince are here from Eatable. And I think, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I think you guys are well on your way to disrupting a category that was begging for disruption for a while, right? So that's fun for me to see just as a fan of the industry. But let's hear a little bit about how you guys were courageous enough and crazy enough to dive into the deep end of the pool of this category and think outside the box as to how you'd sell in it.
Having us on. It's always special for us to kind of take the time to talk about the origins of our brand and how all of this craziness began. But Vincent and I are actually a husband and wife team. We're based out of Toronto, Canada, and we actually met in a wine tasting class. So during the days we were dating, food and wine had always been a really big part of our lives and something that we enjoyed. After a long day in our kind of demanding corporate jobs. So that has always been a big theme in our relationship. And the idea of Eatable actually just really started one day when we were on our way to an event, a gathering on a weekend, and we went into the grocery store, wanted to bring something special, and just were really left feeling uninspired by what we saw. All of the confectionery products were laced with artificial flavors, colors, ingredients, and then on the flip side, the healthier snacks weren't very exciting by any means in terms of flavor profiles. So Vince and I actually went home and we ended up making a popcorn recipe that we'd made a couple times when we were binging on movies on Friday nights. And Vince actually had a great idea to take a shot of single malt scotch and put it into a chef's recipe that we pulled out of a cookbook for stove top caramel. And we covered popcorn, which is our go-to snack, and baked it in the oven. And the result ended up being our first ever boozy-inspired popcorn flavor that we endearingly call whiskey on the pops. And so that was the one flavor that kind of started it all. We brought it to a party and all of our friends went nuts and was just like, what is this? Like, we need more of it. And then so that kind of led us into a journey where we began working alongside of Parisian trained chefs in a commercial kitchen. And Vince, I can let you tell the rest of that part.
Yeah, working alongside some of these trained pastry chefs kind of honed our skills on learning the craft of essentially confectionery making, and then essentially took whatever product we had to begin with, which we thought was already a good starting point. We kind of further developed it and honed it and made it so that it was more able to be produced at a larger scale. And then that kind of led us down the path onto getting our own facility, in-house production facility. And we've kind of been growing the portfolio and the brand since then, adding on some more flavors, think flavors that other people have been wanting us to create. So we've been creating those. And that kind of also led us to develop a lot of these collaborations and other partnerships that we've had the privilege of working with, such as like the Oscars, Barefoot Wines, and other beverage players in the space, and kind of expanding beyond that now. But that all that happy accident, that creation, kind of led us down this path into kind of what we've been doing to date. So
Yeah, so the name Eatable essentially like originated around our own kitchen table. When we were dating, Vince used to come over and my mom used to make these wonderful homemade home cooked dinners, and in her kind of like Chinese Canadian accent, she would ask us like, is this eatable? Is this eatable? Like edible? So it kind of became this term in our family that was associated with like good food, a good company, like just that feeling of being together with the people that you love in your life and sharing a good meal. And that's how the name of our company was created because we wanted everyone who experienced our snacks to feel a little bit of that feeling. And it's for us like there's alcohol is synonymous with celebration. And so we wanted to capture those happy hour inspired flavors in our snacks so that, anytime somebody opens up a bag and enjoys that flavor, it's a little bit of celebration. It's a party in your mouth. It's, big or small moments in your life um, that you just want to kind of share and savor. And so that's really the whole essence of our brand. And as we've been doing more, we've really taken the idea of like making sure that we're doing it with all natural ingredients, like clean indulgence. I mean, sometimes people ask us like, do you want to call yourself a health product? And I kind of want to say maybe we're not a traditional health product in the sense of like you necessarily, want to be eating our our products when you're watching your calories. But I mean, we all want to make better choices in our life, but there's still a time for indulgence. And then when you're going to indulge, you want to indulge in like the clean confectionery product that's made with, real cane sugar, minimally processed, like
Yeah.
free from all of the artificial stuff that's in a lot of the chocolate popcorn, whatever you'd call chocolate, which is actually dribbling chocolate or cocoa powder, right? Like when we make our products, we're doing it with the real forms of those ingredients. So our best-selling flavor is called Pop the Champagne. It's actually a Belgian white chocolate covered kettle corn, and it is fully covered kettle corn kernel with natural champagne extract infused into these popping sugar crystals, like pop rocks, from your childhood.
That's cool.
And then all that is sprinkled on so that when you eat the kernel, it actually pops in your mouth. You feel that bubbly, tingly sensation as if you're eating your bubbles, right? And so that's the whole essence of Eatable. We want snacking to be like a very sensory driven experience, a fun and enjoyable experience that you can really start conversations with. Um, so
Yeah.
we're not here to make another cheese popcorn. I think there's a lot of other players in the space,
Right.
as you've already mentioned, that are doing that. We really want our snacks to kind of like not be flavors you've seen on the shelf
Yeah.
that you want to bring to your celebrations. Yeah.
It's and you mentioned collaborations, but it seems like just the fundamental concept of the brand lends itself to collaborations, seasonality, limited time offerings, right? I mean, you're probably always going to have the hero SKUs like popping champagne. That's awesome. But presumably, as the brand grows and evolves, you could have all sorts of different cocktail recipes or classic wine pairings that are superimposed onto the blank canvas that you have. Like you really have a blank canvas that's universally applicable.
Exactly. I mean, you kind of hit the head on the nail. That when we first started, like popcorn to me is exactly what you just said, like a blank canvas. Like it lends itself to, it's almost like, you're painting and you can apply whatever flavors, colors and anything that you want on this blank canvas and create something that, people want to eat. And I think that that's kind of why we chose popcorn to start.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we've grown, yeah, grown since then. So, yeah.
I think it's cool. And it allows you to build connections and really increase, by orders of magnitude, the number of people who would be able to enjoy your product because you're going to be able to connect with other emerging brands that have a lot of the same audience in other categories of product and collaborate with them, which I think is really cool. And you'll be able to you'll make your product more accessible that way. Um, I'm interested a little bit in your path, how you got your product into the US market, starting with Canada, what your story is, having grown from Canada into the US. Every brand that has done that has a little bit of a unique or different path to doing it, and I'm interested to hear yours.
Yeah, back in 2019, which is when we launched, we were still working on a commercial kitchen at that time, and we threw up a Shopify store. So that was the early days of Eatable, just right before COVID. And during the time of COVID, we had just begun to do really grassroots marketing through local influencers, just really pushing that visualization and expectation and placement of where popcorn was traditionally expected to be with just very elevated lifestyle imagery. COVID actually helped that wave for us because people were looking for fun and exciting experiences at home, and we're just getting more used to the idea of purchasing food online. So we actually discovered during that time, like we were first and foremost kind of a direct consumer e-commerce company first before we got into retail distribution. But what we found was after people were sort of like used to buying us online or seeing us around on social, the natural question was, where can I find you in a store? A majority of people still prefer to shop for food products at their local grocery store or wherever they're shopping for food and gifts. So um, after the world opened up again, it was on our brains like of where do we go from here? What are the ideal retailers that we kind of see our product placed at? And the answer actually was not traditional grocery in the beginning. We specifically partnered with like higher end kind of department stores, boutiques, clothing shops, like spas even were actually a really good arena for us to be on. And along the way, we discovered a couple of different online platforms that gave us access to both the Canadian and US market. So in sort of, establishing ourselves as a wholesale business, we found that a lot of people, were discovering us first on socials and on a little bit of paid ads that we were doing. Firstly, as a consumer, before they then started to inquire and bring and want to bring us in to their stores or their shops or if they're business owners or event planners. Basically, our first foray into wholesale was through avenues where people would go and they would associate the snacks with a good time. So going to the spa, bringing gifts, gourmet gifts over to a friend's place when they're entertaining, events, weddings and stuff. That's kind of how we started. So a couple years in, only this year, I would say in year 5, are we really starting to get into traditional grocery in a very small way. And we're really intentional about the types of retailers we want to get our product into, um, understanding that, price points, it's a little bit more occasion based, as you mentioned. So I wouldn't really consider ourselves as much of an everyday type of product yet. But that's the way we sort of got it. And a lot of people discovered us first socially, like online, and
Yep.
then became retail buyers of our
I think
products.
that's a smart approach. I mean, you're not biting off more than you can chew logistically, and if you're growing in a very deliberate way, in a very calibrated way, then you're much better equipped to manage cash flow too. And a lot of brands end up getting into cash flow challenges because they grow into the wrong accounts too early on that have great top line opportunities, but they're not well suited to the brand's P&L trajectory, right? So I think you guys have figured a lot of that out. So you mentioned you've got just a plus hero killer app of a SKU with the champagne pop rocks. That's really cool. What are some other types of flavor development that you've done, and what's a flavor that you guys are really excited about that you want people to try?
I think so. We launched because of the success of Pop the Champagne. We launched a number of chocolate related SKUs. One of them is the espresso martini, which has obviously coffee notes, but has a bit of espresso infused salt. So it's not it's a bit unexpected when you try it, but because of the sweet and savory profile, it actually lends itself to a nice balance um, between coffee and that bit of savory. So it kind of
Yeah.
cuts through that richness of the chocolate as well. So I feel like that one is definitely up and coming for us. A lot of people that have tried it have told us it's a phenomenal product. Outside of that, I would say going back to the first recipe that we ever created off of our stovetop was the whiskey caramel. I think that one for sure always has a place in my heart because it's what we call the OG
Yeah.
of flavors for us. So I think that one we've refined over time, and it's a product that other whiskey aficionados have told us that this is phenomenal. They can actually taste the single malt Scotch whiskey in it with some of the peatiness and the smokiness. So that those two I would say are ones definitely to try if you're gonna
Yeah.
try that alongside pop the champagne. So
I've had the chance to try them and I've been really impressed. I love it. I think it's really cool. I hope more people get a shot to try it in the months and years to come. I think they will. I think you guys are here to stay. So congratulations on what you've done so far, but good luck in your future growth too.
thank you.
Thank you.